With the conclusion of the second act of Wano looking to arrive at any moment, I want to talk about something that was introduced in chapter 941 that could very well tell us who exactly may be the one to sit on the throne as the Shogun of Wano. The obvious contender, of course, is Kozuki Momonosuke, the son of the former daimyo of Kuri, Kozuki Oden, and the grandson of Kozuki Sukiyaki, the shogun that Orochi succeeded or killed to take his spot, but you know what I mean. Well, what if I were to tell you that there is another possible candidate that has now made his presence known and could in fact be the next viable option to sit on the throne? I'm talking about a certain hedgehog.
I determine my own destiny.
No, not that hedgehog, but he is iconic. But I'm talking about Yasu the hedgehog, or better known to us as Tonoyasu or Yasue. And if the meaning behind his name holds any weight, we could be looking at the man who may very well rule Wano by the end of this arc. So how did I come to this conclusion that Tonoyasu, the proclaimed saint of Ibisu Town, is the man fitted to rule Wano as a shogun? Well, I decided to do some research behind this hedgehog's true name, and I stumbled upon some very interesting information that I could see be implicated later on in the story. If I were to rearrange the word Yasue, I would get the name Ieyasu, which is the first name of Tokugawa Ieyasu, the first shogun under the Tokugawa shogunate of Japan in 1603. And should Oda decide to use pieces of Ieyasu's life into a potential backstory for Tonoyasu, we'll have not only just more insight of the latter's past, but even further connecting him to one day becoming the ruler of Wano. So let's talk about the person behind Yasue, that is Tokugawa Ieyasu. Ieyasu's life was a roller coaster from the very moment he entered the world. Born originally as Matsudaira Takichiyo, he was separated from his family as an infant and passed around from clan to clan as a hostage before he was even 6 years old. Even his own father, Matsudaira Hirodota, refused to surrender to his enemies, the Oda clan, even at the cost of his own son's life, saying that sacrificing his own son would show his seriousness in his pact with the Imagawa, who he aligned with to go against the Oda clan. Despite this refusal, Oda Nobuhide, the father of Nobunaga, chose not to kill Ieyasu, but instead held him as a hostage for the next 3 years. Flash forward many years later, Ieyasu had reclaimed his ancestral seat in Okazaki Castle following the demise of Imagawa's leader Yoshimoto Imagawa. He then forged an alliance now with Oda Nobunaga, who now stood as the clan's head as he aided Nobunaga in many battles over the years. Along the way came Toyotomi Hideyoshi, who served under Nobunaga and later on rose to the rank of general under the Oda clan. His skills as a negotiator led to many opposition switching sides and serving under Nobunaga. Ieyasu, Nobunaga, and Hideyoshi had partaken in many battles over the years that played viable roles in the eventual unification of Japan. Based on these three individuals and their possible Wano counterparts, Ieyasu represents Tonoyasu, Nobunaga as Oden, and Orochi as Hideyoshi, because prior to Ieyasu becoming the shogun, after the demise of Nobunaga due to forced suicide by one of his own men, the lands that were left behind were later on claimed by Hideyoshi, who went on to become the most powerful daimyo, along with later on becoming the eventual shogun of Japan. Due to illness in 1598, Hideyoshi had passed away, and a few years later, Ieyasu became the shogun of Japan. Having outlasted all of his rivals, he stood at the top of Japan for 2 years before giving the title to his son, Tokugawa Hideata. Ieyasu, under the role of a Gosho, meaning the retired shogun, remained the effective ruler of Japan until his final years. In that time, he handled overseas affairs in hopes to build up the trade business with other countries. Tokugawa Ieyasu was named a god due to his importance in uniting Japan and creating the dynasty that would rule the nation for centuries. It's no secret that the Wano Country arc is Oda's love letter to Japan, as shown throughout the course of these past 2 acts. We've been introduced to an influx of characters that have ties to the eventual conclusion of Wano. Tonoyasu has now found himself as an integral part of the plot. As the former daimyo of Hakumai and a man who once served under Kozuki Oden in the past, we now have someone who the people of Wano view as one of the leaders of the old days. The consensus choice for the role of shogun will be Momonosuke because of his family ties. He is the heir after all. Despite that, I believe in the possibility of him not claiming the throne just yet. Rather, he will get the throne afterwards, and Tonoyasu will serve as the placeholder until he is fit to rule. Since we've known Momonosuke, his goals have been made clear: open the borders of Wano and take down Kaido and Orochi. He did tell Luffy back in Dressrosa that he'll become the shogun one day, but he cares more about ending Orochi's reign than beginning his own. Not to mention, we could very well see the possibility of him following his father's footsteps. Like Oden did with Roger and Whitebeard, Momonosuke joining the Straw Hats on their adventure to Raftel is an option. Back in Zou, Brook had told Luffy that being an heir means that he doesn't have to take charge until he has come of age. Now, after a few years of gaining more information, we've learned that Momonosuke is in fact 28 years old, but his body and mind is still that of an 8-year-old. So he could take charge now if he wanted to, technically. However, I feel that he'll take Oden's words to heart and travel the world that he has been closed off from. Gaze out upon it. That is the world, Momonosuke. For a child to have lived most of his life closed off from the world, Momonosuke could take this chance to do what his father did, join alongside the one who will eventually become the Pirate King and travel along with the Straw Hats. He could even take the role as a cabin boy, a title we've seen someone who eventually came into power as one of the 4 Yonko. Once he has seen the world and what it has to offer, he can return to Wano as a proper ruler with the knowledge learned in his travels to help his country connect with the rest of the world. For hundreds of years, Wano has been isolated and hasn't any clue what the world outside of their land is like. Once the borders of Wano have become open by the end of the arc, they are now essentially one with the world. They will have to learn how to cope with other islands, races, ideals, cultures that are very different from what they've known their entire life. If they were to have a leader that has traversed around the world and picked up on the many things throughout the course of their journey that could help aid in the ability to sustain themselves long term, the transition from being closed off to being open will help ease into a new age for the citizens of Wano. And with that, we establish the importance in Toneyasu as a viable option to become Shogun until Momonosuke is ready to rule Wano, while also explaining how him joining the Straw Hats could help aid in the stabilization of Wano as it moves forward with the rest of the world. Now, I've been talking about Momonosuke and Toneyasu this entire time, but you're probably wondering to yourselves, well, what does that mean for Hiyori? She may not be first in line, but she is a child of the Kozuki family. So if anyone has a claim to the throne, should something ever happen to Momonosuke, it's Hiyori long before Toneyasu is even in the conversation. Well, here's the thing. I don't see Hiyori as a ruler by any means. I'm not saying that she doesn't have the credentials, but she hasn't displayed any traits of someone who wishes to be a ruler from her actions thus far. And with how Oda has been writing her character out since her debut in Act 2, she's looking more than anything to play a supporting role in helping her brother take down Orochi. That could change if Oda decides to add some form of conflict between her and Momonosuke throughout the course of Wano, but for now, I can't see that coming into fruition by any means. But I'm curious to know what you guys think down in the comment section below. Who do you feel would be the most viable option to rule the country should something ever happen to Momonosuke and decides to travel the world, or he maybe doesn't want to take the throne after all and someone else is to rule? Who do you think would be that option? If you have a different opinion to what I had in this video, let me know down in the comments. Like the video if you enjoyed, subscribe to the channel if you guys are new here, and I will catch you guys for chapter 942 of the One Piece greatness. So, Commodore Lad signing off. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, take care.